As you can see, we're on the banks of the sacred Ganges River, here in the ancient holy city of Rishikesh, known to many as the city of sages.
We just spent the past few days here in Rishikesh with Andrew Cohen, who's the editor-in-chief of Enlightenment magazine. As you may know, he's also a spiritual teacher. In fact, he began teaching here 24 years ago in Rishikesh. And it's been an incredibly profound trip to come back to the place where so much of the inspiration behind all of Andrew's work, including the magazine and the organization Enlightenment, was born. The first stop on our trip to Rishikesh was the Sivananda Ashram, which has been home to some of India's most revered saints of the past century, including the late Swami Chindanand and the late Swami Krishnananda, who had a significant influence on Andrew when he was a young Sikh.
In a rare honor, Andrew was invited to give 2 talks at the ashram about his teachings of evolutionary enlightenment.
It's such an honor to be speaking in this satsang hall. I can't express it in words. It's just quite a big deal for me to be sitting here. I was sitting here when I sat down remembering when I had heard Swami Chindanand and Swami Krishnananda give satsang here, and I don't think I could have imagined that I would ever be speaking here myself. This first talk I heard him give, and he was giving a lecture, a discourse at this yoga center, and he was talking about sadhana, and he was talking about what it means to be on the path. I never forgot the quote, because he started the quote. He quoted Tennyson, and he said, "Step by step, step by step. Some may come and some may go, but I'll go on forever, step by step, step by step." And then he paused and then he said, "If someone asks you what you do, you say, 'I meditate.'" And then he paused and said, "And I also live." Spiritually aware people, spiritually inspired people care about the world, care about life. They care about where we are going. I do. I'm sure most of you do. And so the question here is, and this is what this teaching really helps to answer, is that when you awaken to this evolutionary impulse, when you become aware of it, I call it the authentic self, you discover an energy, an intelligence, the source of which is immortal. You discover an immortal source of inspiration because you realize you are the one who created this whole process. You want to be here. You want to be here. You see that life is good. The creative process is good, and it desperately needs you.
The next day, we took a journey into India's ancient past.
We headed to nearby Haridwar, just downriver from Rishikesh, to attend the 2010 Kumbh Mela spiritual gathering. Every 12 years, sages, mystics, and babas come down from the mountains and out of the jungles to converge in Haridwar and impart their wisdom to the millions of spiritual pilgrims who attend the gathering.
While many of the gurus at the Kumbh Mela are contemporary mystics hailing from modern India's booming urban centers, others seem to be suspended in time, embodying a dimension of India's cultural and spiritual heritage that hasn't changed in the last 3,000 years. It was definitely a walk on the wild side.
saying he does these things for the sake of the world, I mean, for the sake of other people.
He said that.
He said that, and he also said there's joy in it.
We just spent the afternoon walking through the Naga Baba camp, which you can see behind us. These are guys who've been living in the mountains, practicing extreme tapas or austerities, like one guy who holds his arm above his head for 10 years. Another guy that we met stood in one place without sitting down or moving for 12 years.
People have performed spiritual austerities, the likes of which most Western spiritual, not religious people can't even imagine.
Okay. देख गोली सड़ाता हूँ
This sadhu took us all by surprise when he proudly demonstrated a rather extreme example of his yogic mastery and liberation from worldly desire.
खुला करके दिखाइए, saying should he show his sword?
Yeah.
है ना धार हैं हाँ धार वाला है
Oh, his trick.
What?
His trick. What a trick, though.
It makes the pain in your knee during morning meditation seem like the most stupid, silly little nothing you've ever seen in your life.
It's humbling, for sure.
As you can see the sun setting in the background, we're going to go to an arati on the banks of the Ganges in Haridwar at the famous ghat there.
It is at Haridwar's famous Harki Power Ghat, where a drop of nectar from the gods is reputed to have fallen, making this sacred spot one of the 4 locations where the Kumbh Mela is held throughout India. Every 12 years, millions of pilgrims visit this site to immerse themselves in the Ganges and to have their sins washed away by its holy waters. And in my own experience, this ancient purifying ritual is powerful indeed.
Since Enlightenment magazine was founded 18 years ago, one of its dominant themes has been the ongoing engagement between Andrew Cohen and some of the leading spiritual teachers on the planet.
Definitely. One of the most incredible aspects of this trip has been the opportunity to accompany Andrew into these profound encounters between spiritual teachers.
Swamiji, is the point of enlightenment to transcend the world or to transform the world?
It is a transcendent of worlds.
To transcend the world.
Yeah.
But isn't the world created because God wanted to manifest in form?
Yes, God created, but He has created to make disappear also. Both things happen.
But He created because He wanted to exist, right?
No, He is existing within everybody. He is not existing Himself.
Pilot Baba is a former pilot for India's first female Prime Minister, Indira Gandhi. At the age of 35, he traded his wings for a sadhu robe after being called to the renunciate life by a mysterious yogi who had been guiding and protecting him since childhood.
Sri Ravi Shankar is a former disciple of the late Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. His commitment to humanitarian efforts has made him one of the most popular spiritual figures in the world, and he's become the guru of choice for the middle and upper classes of India.
Sri, one of the things I was thinking about on this trip to India is that in India, the Indian culture and Indian spirituality comes from a traditional culture. And as India's entered into modernity, also in Indian culture, many Indians who've entered into this modern world context have gotten lost in the material orientation, and they're experiencing enormous stress, even though they have enormous material wealth, huge apartments, flying all over the world, but they've lost touch with the heritage of their own culture.
You're right, correct.
Huh?
Correct, that's happening.
And another point I was thinking about was that in traditional culture, there's an appreciation for spirit, for God, for the sacred. And also I noticed that now many people are attracted to spirituality simply because they want to relieve stress, not necessarily for God realization. Right?
I say that we mend the broken hearts, come here. So when people are desperate with the relationship and they break up their relationship, or when they're hired or fired, they all come rushing to us.
Yeah.
But then they move on to the higher plane. So immediate comfort, immediate blessings when they get some relief.
It's relief.
Then they move on the path.
Because what's happening now in modern India is that the family, just like happened in the West over the last 50 years, now in modern India, it's shrinking, and so now the modern Indians are experiencing all the same breakdowns of culture that already happened in the West. So the family is getting smaller, the sense of being supported is falling away, and people are feeling the same sense of isolation and frustration.
And that's why I said you should come more often to India.
Yeah, well, I intend to.
We definitely want to make that happen.
Swami Chindanand Saraswati left his home for the Himalayan jungles and forests at the tender age of 8 under the guidance of his spiritual master. Today he is a highly respected voice in Indian spiritual culture, and like the other spiritual masters we met, he expresses an inspiring and absolute surrender to God.
Liberation or no liberation, who cares? Whatever is there, let him plan it. Send me to hell, okay, we'll plan there also something. Yeah, meditation course, whatever. Okay, who cares? Hell or heaven, no, nothing bothers now. Even liberation, not needed. We are happy here. Who knows? Fear of unknown or not known, or there or not there. Who cares even? And serving here, they say, I have heard, liberation means just you are in ecstasy on your own. Okay. What is the problem here? Why not be in ecstasy here amongst everything? Come back again and again and keep serving, and whatever he wants you to do it, become the tool. That's it.
I agree.
And it's wonderful.
Midway through the meeting, a respected elder Swami from the ashram joined us and asked Andrew to explain his teachings, a common practice in India among spiritual teachers when they first meet.
Now, he is asking, I said he is very genius and he shares wisdom and vision. He said, what is that, what he shares?
You can tell them try to give people some understanding of who they are, where they come and where they came from, and maybe so how we can get some sense of where we should be going.
तो आगे का जीवन क्या है?
आगे का जीवन. What is next?
What is next?
Yeah.
Always where we want to go in the next moment is is something beyond what has come before.
वो तो ठीक है। अब जैसे इससे वो परे है तो उसकी पहचान क्या है?
Okay, when you say the beyond,
Yeah.
how you identify, recognize that beyond? What is that beyond?
Because something that has never existed before emerges into the present moment.
उसकी पहचान क्या है?
How to recognize that?
Well, we always know when we see something that we've never seen, because we're always struck with awe, wonder, and amazement.
तो है। फिर
क्या उसका साधन क्या है?
okay, how to achieve that now? How to reach there?
How to achieve it?
How to achieve that?
We have to transcend the ego.
अपने अहंकार से ऊपर उठें।
कैसे?
अपने अहंकार को
कैसे?
How to transcend ego?
How to transcend ego? Okay. Well, first the aspiration has to be there. First the aspiration has to be there, and then once the aspiration comes, we have to identify with the aspiration, and when we identify with the aspiration, we have to act on the aspiration, and then once we act on the aspiration, the momentum, right, of the spiritual impulse or the evolutionary impulse will carry us beyond the ego.
Okay. पहले
ये बता रहे हैं। ठीक, आप करो अपनी बात करो।
ठीक, is happy.
Swami Chindanand Saraswati is the head of the Parmarth Niketan Ashram here in Rishikesh, and he invited Andrew Cohen to come and present his teachings of evolutionary enlightenment at the 2010 International Yoga Festival at the ashram.
Andrew's teaching of evolutionary enlightenment is deeply rooted in the Hindu mystical school of Advaita Vedanta. But during his talks at the yoga festival, Andrew challenged many of India's most sacred cows by looking at the ancient traditions through the lens of a new evolutionary spirituality.
We're no longer living in a traditional world, in a traditional cultural context, even here in India, right? So there's still a large traditional context, but so many millions of Indians are entering into, are crossing over from traditional world to a modern world. And in the modern world, the tradition has been largely thrown away. I don't believe that the point and purpose and goal of enlightenment is to win freedom from incarnation. I think when people begin to awaken, when they begin to realize who they really are, they discover a desire to exist in the world that is very profound, that is spiritually meaningful and spiritually powerful. Now the individual says, oh, I really want to be here. I want to consciously participate in the life process. I really want to be here. And I want to come back. Again, and again, and again. Where else is there to go? You remember, God created the universe from nothing. And God was abiding in that state of timeless, formless being for countless billions of eons of no time, for eternity already. We have already been abiding in timeless, formless being for eternity. We have already done that forever. You understand? So there's no hurry to get back. What's new is what's happening here and now. This is new. God's never been here before. This is the leading edge of the leading edge of the leading edge of where he or she has ever been. We're right on the crest of the wave of where God is. That's very exciting.
The next day, Andrew had a chance to meet with some of his Indian students in a warm gathering at the Enlightenment Center in the village of Tapovan, just up the river from Rishikesh.
Later that night, Swami Chindanand Saraswati asked Andrew to share the stage at the festival's special evening forum with His Holiness the Shankaracharya Divyanand Teerthji.
We want to see is that this body and this mind and this personality and even our egos are really vehicles for consciousness. Your body and my body, your mind and my mind, your ego and my ego are actually vehicles. This is a vehicle for consciousness. So we want to say, who's driving the car? Who's driving the vehicle? Who's driving your vehicle? Who's driving my vehicle?
As he was rightly saying, who is driving your car and who is driving my car? Who is listening? Who is seeing? Who is walking? Who is doing different activities? Definitely it is not the body. Definitely it is not the body. The body is just a medium. It is just a media. We are using it as a vehicle. But who is driving it? Who is driving it? Definitely the ears are not listening. Because even a dead body has got ears. The dead body has got eyes. The dead body has got feet. Dead body has got hands. But dead body cannot do anything. So definitely it is not the body. It is something else. So what is that something else? It is my own self.
The two gurus then took questions from the audience, including one from Swami Chindanand's close student and personal assistant, Sadhvi Bhagawati. She honed in on the provocative distinction Andrew had made between classical Enlightenment teachings and his new teaching of evolutionary enlightenment.
It's the first time I've ever heard a reference to the idea of somehow God being anything other than already whole and complete and infinite, and somehow relying on us to achieve some kind of goal. And actually I would like, if you as well as Shankaracharya and even Puja Swamiji, if you feel so inclined, to explain this from the different perspectives, because it feels to me like such an important concept when we're talking about God.
It's my understanding that when God, to put it in a theological context, when God decided or chose to become the material universe, then He chose to enter into a creative process of becoming. He stepped out of his or her inherent perfection, absolute perfection, to enter into a creative process where he would be ceaselessly reaching to become a manifestation of the perfection that he already was before he decided to create the universe.
The creation itself took place just to manifest the glory of the Lord. If somebody asks, why this creation? Why God created the universe? What was the necessity of creating this universe? So the Vedas say that it is just to manifest the glory of the Lord. If this universe had not existed, how could we know the glory of the Lord?
It's been an incredible trip traveling with Andrew Cohen on his return to sacred India. We've bathed in the Ganges with holy Babas. We've sat at the feet of some of India's most revered spiritual masters. And we've experienced enough spiritual adventure in only a week to last us more than one lifetime.
From start to finish, it's been a meeting of the old and the new. Through all of his dialogues and teachings, Andrew has honored the spiritual mantle that India has carried on behalf of the world for so many ages, while at the same time challenging many traditional beliefs by advocating a new evolutionary understanding of enlightenment.
The thing that I personally, and I think many of you, find so extraordinary about this wonderful country that India is, and the reason why so many Western people find their way here, is because for thousands of years in India there's been a culture that has recognized the significance of consciousness. And what I feel very passionate about is creating, is helping, obviously with other people who feel similarly, to create a cultural revolution in the West where the significance, the absolute significance of consciousness and of the evolution of consciousness is put first and foremost.
स्वाहा ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्योर्मुक्षीयमामृतात् स्वाहा कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात्